Welcome back to Pop Culture Theory. I am Saccora, and we are here today to talk about Pathfinder 2.0 and my experience playing Pathfinder 2.0 during my recent trip to GAMA trade show. So I'm live here. I'm going to be taking some live questions during this time. I need to quickly set up over on the side so I can read the questions over there. But after that, I'm going to start diving into my experience. If I don't have any questions while I'm live here, I'll at least give you guys all a rundown of what I learned during this time. So give me just one moment here. In the background, we have a little bit of music playing from Albus, ALBVS Music here on YouTube, a great channel. Some All right. All right, I've got my live video pulled up over on the side here. I am all set up. I can read your guys' chat stuff if you send me messages now, and we can all kind of get going from there. Once again, I am Saccora here with Pop Culture Theory today. I am going to be doing a live video chat about Pathfinder 2.0, which I had a chance to play this last week at GAMA Trade Show with some of the creators of Pathfinder 2.0, and man, was that an experience. I can't wait to tell you guys some of the things I learned about the game. I have some pictures and stuff, but it's all just like pictures of us playing. We weren't able to take pictures of the character sheets or anything. I actually took down one video because you could barely see a character sheet in it, and I didn't want any of that proprietary knowledge out there. They will be releasing more of this during the Pathfinder playtest. You guys can see I've got a poster up there for it. You don't see the full thing, but you are able to pre-order the Pathfinder playtest for 2.0 now at your local stores. It is going to be a one-time run on these old Pathfinder. But let's go ahead and get started today. I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about what I learned in Pathfinder 2.0, and every once in a while I'm going to check over to the side here and make sure I... All right, we are back. I am not quite sure where we cut off there. It's one of the reasons I have my video over to the side is so I can make sure I'm watching this. The live stream likes to cut off occasionally here. Anyways, what I was saying is I'm doing a live video on Pathfinder 2.0 from Paizo Publishing. It is the successor to Pathfinder, a role-playing game kind of like D&D, and many people felt was like a successor to Dungeons & Dragons 3.5 edition. So I had a chance to play Pathfinder, and I'm not quite sure where the stream cut off there, but I was saying there is a little bit of a joke in the community that Pathfinder is known as Mathfinder. And being that I don't know how much of that has changed in the new one, but there is a lot of things that have simplified. So just like how Pathfinder simplified many aspects of 3.5, Pathfinder 2.0 has simplified many aspects of Pathfinder, including things like taking certain skills that were similar, combining them into one, and just making the game run more fluently. So with all that being said, once in a while I'm going to check over here to the side, read my chat, make sure nobody's tuning in and asking any questions. This is a little bit of an AMA. I obviously am not a developer from the game. I only had one playtest so far, but I can answer anything I know. And in case this didn't catch in the earlier part of the video, if you have a local gaming store and you wanted to get in on the Pathfinder playtest for 2.0, go ask them right now. I recommend that you order the book. Tell them you personally want a copy. Have them order an extra copy just for you. This is a limited edition material, and I don't expect a lot of game stores to order too many copies. So if you want in on this playtest, it is going to be a collector's item beyond that. After this playtest is done, it's going to be out of print, and they're probably going to make changes. So if you want that collector's item playtest material, I recommend you go to your local game store and order it. Now, that being said, let's talk a little bit about what I learned from Pathfinder 2.0. I'll go cutting to the chase and explain that I like it. I like it a lot. I don't have a lot of negative things to say about it at this time. From my experience, it is a complete improvement on Pathfinder, and I like Pathfinder a lot. So, here are a couple of the things that I learned. Let me tell you a little bit about my experience, and we will kind of go from there. It is a little bit of an AMA, ask me questions. I'm kind of following over to the side here. If you see me looking aside, I'm just checking my chat, seeing if you guys have any questions for me. I'm going to start off and tell you guys a little bit about what I experienced and what happened with this campaign. So, I went to GAMA Trade Show, and one of the first nights, it might have even been the first night there, they were doing some playtesting for Pathfinder 2.0, so I jumped in on the second group, and I had a chance to play as the rogue. So, we were all at level 1, I'm a level 1 rogue in this, and even from a level 1, I experienced a lot of things that I can pass on to you guys, and changes that I was able to catch. Now, not all of these are necessarily permanent. They are still adjusting this up to the playtest, and then the playtest will make more adjustments up to Pathfinder 2.0. So some of this could change between now and then. Let's start with the big things that I caught. Race is out. We don't have races anymore. We have ancestry. So my character was Ancestry Elf. That I thought was really cool. Beyond Ancestry, I know they didn't have this on the play sheet at the time, but one of the people was talking to me about they're looking at doing a separate thing. It'll be Ancestry, and then maybe... Oh, I'm having a little trouble remembering the exact word they used. Ancestry will be like elf and dwarf and halfling and human, and those kind of things that were previously races. But they're also going to have something, it's not background, but it's similar to background, that will be like any of the variants in humans they had, because you have like Varisians or Chilaxians. And maybe they wouldn't confirm or deny this, but we might see some different elf and dwarf and those kind of things of ancestry and not quite background, but there's a different word, because background is another thing. Much like D&D 5e, they are going to have backgrounds. My character was a background criminal, which gave me my own skills and some other aspects as a thief there. Some of the other characters had other backgrounds that affected them, so the only other one that immediately popped to mind is the Paladin was background street urchin, which actually made the Paladin have the skill for sleight of hand, not sleight of hand, that's something we're going to get into in a second. Sleight of hand has been rolled into another skill. So you have backgrounds now. That was another big piece. Oh, we got somebody already tuning in saying hi there. Hi. If you guys have any questions, again, I'm going to check about every couple minutes and see what we can check into. Now, what I was saying with some skills rolled in is I was playing the Thief, and you no longer have the skills Sleight of Hand and Disable Device. You have Thievery. Thievery covers all that. So just like how we went from having Move Silently and Hide was turned into Stealth with Pathfinder, we're going to roll more skills into each other. Another notable change to skills I caught that is related to background is that the background gives you a skill called Lore. So like I had Lore Underground. And Underground, it's not like Underground Droger and Drow, it's like Underground Black Markets. And for very, very specific questions, unlike Knowledge, which is a little broader, specific questions can be answered by your lore coming from your background. So if I wanted to know about the black market in the local town, I would roll my lore background for Underground, and that would maybe tell me who the local fence is. It's very specific details. Honestly, the way I kind of worded it to the Piazzo people is, it's how I see a lot of groups misrun the current skill of Knowledge Local. Knowledge Local is a bit of an undefined skill for a lot of groups, and they do things like allow you to find black markets with it, or allow you to find local temples. A lot of this is now going to be covered by lore. So, I think that... I can't remember off the top of my head what the Paladin's lore was. I was looking at the other character sheets a lot, and I'll bring in some of them, but Thief is definitely what I was the most... or Rogue was what I was the most common with, because I played the Rogue level 1 character. So, that was definitely a big highlight there, and Rogue is my favorite character, so having a chance to jump in on the Rogue was very cool. That being said, there was a couple other things that I experienced right away, and one of those is there's a stat missing. That is initiative. We no longer have initiative on the character sheet. Instead, perception is up where the initiative used to be. It's no longer located down in the skills, and in most cases, perception is rolled in place of initiative to decide who goes first. Now, where that is a little bit different is, two of our characters in the first combat were hiding. When you're hiding, stealth is used in place of perception for your initiative, to see if you're seeing, because they're rolling their perception against your stealth. So, oddly enough, or funnily enough, I guess, I rolled a nat 1 as the rogue character stealthing, so I was clearly seen. I was the last to go, and it kind of made for a funny story. All of the undead, like, immediately come right toward me because I was the most obvious person, despite that I am the thief with a good stealth check trying to hide. That's what happens when you roll a nat 1. Which actually brings me into, there is new mechanics for both critting and critical strikes, and fumbling is what we call the new mechanic. So, with fumbling, anytime you roll a nat 1, you can fumble, and there's certain things like when one of our guys threw, it's the classic, you roll the d8 to see which direction it falls instead, or you can fumble your weapon out of your hand. Some different things have different effects depending on fumbling. It looked like it might be a lot of DM choice on fumbling, but there might be more mechanics built into it I didn't see. I wasn't behind the DM screen this time, I got to actually sit down and play. Now, that being said, I did get to learn a little bit about crits. Crits are not just what they used to be, so first, you roll a nat 20, you crit. As far as I can tell, there is no confirming to crit. Nat 20 is a crit. Beyond that, not just a 1 and not just a 20 is a crit or a fumble. -10 or +10 is a crit fumble. So, crit or fumble. So if I had an AC of 18 and they rolled an 8 total, I'm pretty sure that counts as a fumble. As far as the crit, if I had an AC of 14 and they rolled a 24, that is also then a crit, and you're going to get your crit effects, which, again, double damage for all of our classic damage users. But beyond that, spells had specific things built into crits. So, Burning Hands, for instance, mentioned that it is double damage. You roll double damage on Burning Hands on a critical strike. I think there were some other ones, though, that had different effects on a critical strike. So, things like, and this isn't for sure, but things like you would light an opponent on fire with a critical strike and they would have continuous fire damage. Or I think a lot of it was double damage or like effects like fire or acid, lingering damage. But you can imagine where this would go even then on some healing type spells and things like that. There's going to be different effects for critical hits and different effects for fumbles. And fumbles and critical hits aren't relegated just to 20s and 1s now. Maybe there's going to be some critical improvement feats. I didn't get to look into the feats too much, so maybe we'll be able to improve our crit range from 18 to 20 in addition to if it's the +10. I'm not quite sure how that'll work with +10 also being a crit there. So that was definitely an interesting concept there. There was some other things built right into the game that I noticed, including that, for instance, you don't need to have any extra skills to disarm effectively. My rogue right away had disarm attached to the rapier, and I was rolling disarm effects, and it worked well. Like, it's built in to work well right off the bat, is one of the things I would note. In addition to sneak attack, is if you go first in the round, before they go, you're sneak attacking. In addition, it's anytime they're going to be flat-footed, and flat-footed is now a condition compared to, like, there was different things that would make somebody flat-footed. Now it's a condition imposed on people, so just like you could be asleep or grappled or have these different conditions, flat-footed is now a game condition. So if you are flanked on both ends, flat-footed. There's other things, including if I go before you, you're flat-footed. I believe, at least for the rogue, that was how that was working. So flat-footed now a generic condition in the game. It's not a modifier depending on if certain things are happening, if that makes sense. So that was one of the interesting things. It was a good way for a rogue to line up and get some of those attacks and be more versatile with lining up for the flanking. It's always been, your classic rogue moves is to try to get in there, flank, get them flat-footed, and get your sneak attacks off, but I feel like it was a little simpler in this version. Probably the thing I'm going to spend the most time talking about was there was a large change in the action economy. So you no longer have a move action and then a regular action in which multiple attack actions can happen depending on your level, and you don't have bonus actions, or I don't think they were quite called reactions in the last game. I feel like that's a 5e term, but correct me if I'm wrong in the comments below. It might be reactions in Pathfinder as well. I've DM'd way too many games at this point. But your attacks of opportunity and those kind of things are now a reaction. You get one of in a turn. I don't know if there's ways to get more attacks of opportunity. I don't know if there's ways to get more reactions. It kind of feels like what's going on with D&D 5e with the one reaction. But the more crazy thing that's going on there is you get 3 actions in a turn, starting at level 1. And they can be any of your actions. Do you want to move 3 times? Move 3 times. Do you want to attack 3 times? As a level 1 rogue, attack 3 times. And then you follow your classic Pathfinder rules. So if I'm right in your face and I'm going to choose all 3 attacks, my first one's at my natural d20. My next one is at whatever the roll on the d20 is, -5. The next one after that at -10. Take a -5 for every time you attack. You might even get more actions as you level up. I didn't get to mess around with the level up mechanics, but starting at level 1, you had 3 actions, and there were turns where I would attack all 3 times, or I would attempt to attack and then disable, or not disable, disarm. So attack them and then disarm them and then disarm them if the first one failed. These are all different options I had, including moving 3 times. You want to run away? Move, move, move. Not every creature also had attacks of opportunity. There were some creatures that got to take attacks of opportunity, others that didn't. So that isn't doled out to every monster and creature now. So that was definitely the craziest and most interesting thing about the game, was that there is definitely attacks of opportunity for some creatures, and they are put into reactions, which means you don't get all your attacks of opportunity, which was I had a classic build that was all attacks of opportunity all the time. And you also have the 3 actions right off the bat. And this is the other piece of the 3 actions thing that I was talking about there, is casters. Each action involved in your spell takes one of those actions, and that determines how many actions you get in a turn. So if you have a verbal component and a somatic component, that's a verbal action and a somatic action. Verbal action, no attack of opportunity on them. During the somatic action, if they have the option for attacks of opportunity, they're going to take them on you. I thought that was a really cool system, because that means if you have a verbal only spell, you can cast that in a turn, and then you can do a verbal and a somatic in a turn if you want. It's all based on the amount of components, and that's how many actions it takes. I don't know if they're going to do things like Silent Spell that would remove the verbal action and take one less action ultimately to cast the spell, but I have a feeling that that's how that's going to play out on those. So that is how Pathfinder 2's actions work. You have an action economy of 3 different actions, and you use them for anything. The last thing I should probably add to that is there's no combined actions. You're not drawing a weapon while moving anymore. If you want to draw a weapon, that's an action. You want to put a weapon away, that's an action. Our party did a lot of drawing a weapon, and you have your sword out, and then all of a sudden I drop my sword because that's free to draw my bow because that's an action, instead of putting my sword away, using an action, and drawing a bow for action. So imagine I've already fought last turn, I have my sword out. Now I'm going to free action to drop my sword, use my 1 action to draw my bow, and then take 2 shots as my other 2 actions. Draw the bow and 2 attacks in 1 turn, that's 3 actions total. Or draw the bow, attack in 1 turn, and move, those are 3 actions. However you want to break it down, 3 actions is what you're getting in Pathfinder at level 1. I have a feeling you're going to get more later on, and that's how they're going to put more attacks in. But I thought it was really cool to be a level 1 and go in and make double attacks. I will also go into that's how dual weapons works, at least. There was no, like, I can use both as 1 action in dual weapons. No, it's I attack with this weapon, and then I attack with this weapon. So at least one point I had my rapier and my dagger out, and I attack with my rapier, and I attack with my rapier, and then I decided I would try with my dagger too, because my dagger had versatile, which allows it either piercing or slashing damage. In that case, I wanted to switch to piercing from slashing damage, which, or might have been vice versa, but it was the one I couldn't produce there with my rapier. So there's a lot of different ways you can do that. Like I said, there's the versatile, and then the other thing that they had is quick. There was a attribute that was on my rapier, and I'm having a little trouble remembering it off the top of my head. I feel like it was agile might have been the right word for it. And for that weapon, anytime I made an extra attack, instead of a -5 on my weapon, it was a -4 on my weapon. So it's weapons that are meant to make extra attacks more effectively would have that property. And I want to say that was called agile in this. I don't unfortunately have any pictures of the character sheets because we weren't allowed to take them. And again, I really respect Paizo, so I wasn't taking any of those pictures. I also deleted one video because you could see a little bit of a character sheet, and I didn't think you could originally when I uploaded it. So with all that being said, I'm pretty sure agile was the name of that. No questions yet. So I'm going to keep going and tell you guys a little more about what I was able to glean off of my Pathfinder 2.0 playthrough. We've already covered that they've wrapped skills together. We've covered that you have ancestry, and then we might get some other sort of background, but you also have a background in these. You have your classes. I was able to look at a couple of the other things, like Cleric. Cleric, depending on how many actions you spent when you were using your channel energy, it had different effects. So you could channel using all 3 actions to like heal and do damage to the undead while healing your opponents in a large radius. Otherwise, you could do a single target with 1 or 2 actions. As a rogue, I had a couple of other effects. I had a cat burglar feat that didn't come in at the time we were playing. We focused on a combat-based session. There wasn't as much role-playing in this. I also had feats directly related to my background. That might have even been the cat burglar. I'm not sure. Oh, a little phone call there. Let me silence my phone. So that was a couple of those different options. I didn't mess around with the feats too much, but I did notice right off the bat I did have multiple feats. So I think starting at level 1, despite if you're a human or not, you're getting feats. I'm wishing I could remember more of the other races and what their effects were. That's one I can't tell you about the elf. As my elf, my special trait wasn't, in past D&Ds it's been finding hidden doors. I think it was protection from enchantment in Pathfinder. Now it's protection from emotional not enchantments, just emotional spells. So emotions is a type of spell qualifier now that you can have, and you have, I almost want to say it's not a plus, but an advantage. Like you roll twice on emotion spells. Not 100% sure if that's how that fell out there. Oh, sorry. I want to double check. I don't know what. Turning off that music there. I think it went to a bit of an ad. I had ALBVS music, free music that I could play in the background in front of my wife, so I've been playing in some of my live videos. Anyways, there was an emotion qualifier there on the elf, and he had, I want to say it was almost like advantage of getting motion quality. I could be off on the advantage piece. Again, I'm wishing I had been allowed to take pictures of these character sheets, but I wasn't. I did take a couple of notes on them, and I might bring those up in another video. I haven't had any questions yet, so I'm probably going to wrap it up here pretty soon. But I think the last big thing I want to say about Pathfinder 2.0 that I experienced was, I want to tell you a little bit about our session itself. We had 6 players, and we did 2 full combats. One combat had 5 zombies, or 3 zombies, 2 skeletons, and the other combat had a boss that was at a higher CR than us. It was at the equivalent boss CR. The crazy thing about that is, and again, take this in, 6 players and 5 creatures, and then another combat with a boss, dialogue in between. I had a nice little thing about trying to barter for my soul. He just wanted it for free, wouldn't take it. Sad day. And a boss combat. All that happened in about 35 minutes. That blew my mind. I don't know if you guys have issues with combat in Pathfinder moving quickly and fast, but I do. I can have my players, a group of 5 players, take an hour fighting 5 other creatures. Just because individual turns get so intense and they each can take 10 minutes per turn, and we've had to institute rules at points about how long they can each spend and that they need to really think about their combat between the other players' turns, and it still can take forever. The fact that we got through 2 full combats, one of them being a boss combat, and we were able to do all that with dialogue and a little talking and joking in between in 35 minutes really sold Pathfinder 2.0 to me. Beyond any of the other aspects, the things that make it a little simpler to get into, the things that make it a little more condensed and make sense, I really, really liked the combat system and the fact that I was able to get through 2 combats so quickly. And maybe that was just that we were working with a really, I assume, I hate the term professional GM. This guy, helps create the game. So I don't know if I'd call him professional GM, but, a well-established player. He's helped create the game. He might have helped, push things along a little faster. I'm not saying that any GM is going to get through both those combats in 35 minutes. But I really thought that was impressive. Getting through both combats in 35 minutes was a huge thing. And I think the last thing that I would have to say about Pathfinder 2.0 is, it has sold me. I'm going to be testing it. I'm going to be doing the playtest. I'm going to try to get some groups to do live for the playtest to share all that material with you guys and see where this develops into. But I know a little bit more about how the story is going to develop too. So, Pathfinder 2.0, my understanding is we are going to have Rise of the Rune Lords was our very first big entrance into the Pathfinder pre-built campaigns. Now they're going to do Return of the Rune Lords, and they're going to wrap it all up. Pathfinder is going to kind of wrap out with the Return of the Rune Lords, but they did say that they want Return of the Rune Lords to be as compatible as possible with Pathfinder 2.0. And they said it's not necessarily going to be a straight compatibility, but there's a lot of things they're leaving vague so people can test it with Pathfinder 2.0 because they know a lot of people want to. And it'll be made for Pathfinder 1.0, but they know a lot of players are going to want to use the playtest material for the Return of the Rune Lords. So expect it to be something that you probably can playtest Pathfinder 2.0 with Return of the Rune Lords if you're interested. There also was some talk about how Pathfinder Society is going to happen, and I think it's going to be a little bit of a two-pronged thing where if further campaigns are going to go into Pathfinder 2.0, but they're going to allow Pathfinder Society to keep running old campaigns with Pathfinder 1.0 characters if they want. They know a lot of you guys who've ran Pathfinder Society have plans years out for your characters. You want them to run this campaign and then go into this one and then this module, and they're going to give you and your GMs the option to continue doing that if that's what you want. I thought that was a A-plus move from Pathfinder. Not completely discounting Pathfinder 1.0 as we move into 2.0, but at the same time recognizing that 2.0 is something that players might be skeptical of, and they might want more books for before they completely transition in. Myself, I have enough books already. I've had my fun with Pathfinder. I've had my fun with all the new books. I do want to get the last Ultimate book that is out here. I haven't had a chance to mess around with that yet. But Ultimate Nature or Ultimate... It's the Nature one. I want to mess around with that. But beyond that, I'm good moving on from Pathfinder. It started to feel a little like 3.5 had when I was ready to move to Pathfinder for the first time, where there was too many options, and I can see my players breaking the game in too many ways. I like broken games, but I don't like when every game, every player can break the game. And luckily, my groups aren't all like that, but I heard a lot of people who have that issue, and returning to the basics, I think, is absolutely a big thing. I mentioned it to all the Paizo staff when I was there. I got to have long talks with a lot of them, and, you know, I really want to thank them for that. They were really open to talking to the people at GAMA, and I had some great conversations. I wouldn't be able to make a video like this for you all with this kind of details if I hadn't had a chance to really chat with some of these people. So, that all being said, I haven't gotten any questions over here. I think I've covered a lot of what I know. If I think of anything else that I can remember from the sessions, I will absolutely bring it back to you guys. There was a funny point where a alchemist goblin was forced to drop both an acid flask and a fire flask on himself because he'd been hit by a spell. That was pretty hilarious, but kind of irrelevant. I mean, that can happen in any campaign. Anyways, I'm Saccora with Pop Culture Theory. Thank you guys so much for tuning into my live video. If I think of anything else from Pathfinder 2.0, I will be letting you know right away, as well as I'm going to be posting some Pathfinder 2.0 playtest videos when the playtest comes out. I've got my group already chatting about it. I'm going to be doing more D&D and Starfinder videos as well. We're going to be doing a lot more with RPGs in general. So I really hope you guys are all looking forward to that. I want to take a quick side note and give a shout out to all of my people who won during my giveaway week. I have been able to reach out to all but 3 people, and I'm going to be doing the sending out of all of the giveaways at the end of this week, even if I don't get a hold of those 3 people. If you haven't heard from me, or I haven't heard from you, feel free to hit me up on Facebook at facebook.com/Saccora or facebook.com/popculturetheory. I've had some people having issues reaching out to me on YouTube. Privacy settings make it a little hard for messages sometimes. So if you are one of my winners, and if you don't know if you're a winner, go back and check those videos. You might have won something. Reach out to me on one of those Facebook channels, and I'll get your address, and I'm going to send everything out at the end of this week. I'm aiming to send all of those out on Friday. So for my other winners there who have given me your address, thank you so much for patiently waiting. I will be sending everything out on Friday is my goal. Earlier than that if I get the other addresses in soon. Once again, everybody, I am Saccora with Pop Culture Theory. Check me out around the web at facebook.com/Saccora and twitter.com/Saccora. Check Pop Culture Theory out here on YouTube, of course, and on Facebook and Twitter at Pop Culture Theory. And if you want, check me out on Patreon at patreon.com/Saccora. I don't have any Patreon patrons yet. I'm hoping to get a couple on there because it's ultimately going to help me do more giveaways. I can also do things like, I know you guys see that annoying little watermark on the side of some of my videos. I just haven't had a chance to upgrade my equipment yet to get some of these things not in the free editions. And I'm going to use every dollar that I get from Patreon to help the channel. That's what that Patreon has specifically been set up for. If you guys want to throw me $1 a month on there, I would really appreciate it. But you don't have to make this content keep coming. I really enjoy communicating with all of you guys, and I'm going to keep making these videos either way. So, anyways, everybody, I've taken enough of your time. I'm Saccora with Pop Culture Theory. And I will catch you all next time.